channel. I have a very exciting video today. I'm going to talk about my trip to London, all my tips and tricks, and obviously if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Obviously this is all totally my opinion, my experience, but I wanted to share them in case anyone is looking for maybe some advice when planning their trip. If you haven't already seen, my past two videos are of my trip to London, so if you want to see more of what I did, you can watch those videos, but here I'm just going to talk about maybe some things that I recommend or don't recommend. The first note I will say about London is that it is really expensive. I know that I had never been to Europe before, so going in I was like, Europe is going to be so much cheaper. I live in DC and I'm from New York originally, so I couldn't imagine that it was going to be comparable or anything to those, but I'd say it was the same if not more expensive than those cities. It definitely costs a lot, especially if you're going in with the intention of doing those touristy things. For example, like Big Ben, London Eye, things like that can really add up. So I definitely want to give some tips and tricks about maybe some attractions that you definitely want to go to and some that you can skip paying for because they're expensive. But if you're anything like me, you're going to completely disregard that because I want to see everything. So if you are going to see everything, I also have a few suggestions for that. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is transportation. Obviously getting around to all these different places is really important. Me and my friend were traveling alone, just the two of us, and as two girls we were very wary of like Ubering or taking the subway there, but honestly that was the best thing that we did. We originally were just walking around everywhere, and London is huge if you haven't been, so it was really far to go everywhere, and we ended up deciding to take the tube, and this was an amazing decision. The tube was super easy to navigate. I literally would plug a location into my phone and it would tell me exactly what line to get on, what direction it needs to be heading in, and it just made everything so much easier. So I definitely recommend taking that. It's also a lot cheaper than taking Ubers in London. I know that our Uber from the airport to where we were staying was like $50, so I definitely think that taking the tube is the way to go. It also is really clean. We felt really safe on it the whole time that we were there, especially because we were just in like the general touristy areas. We didn't take it like super far ever, so yeah, it was honestly super easy, and I recommend you definitely save a lot of money on travel by doing that as opposed to Ubering. I will say though that it is a little more expensive than maybe some subways you're used to, like the one in New York City, but it still is pretty reasonable compared to the other forms of transportation in the city. So again, if you're like me and you want to go on any attraction if you're like me and you want to go on any and every attraction that you possibly can, I definitely would recommend purchasing the London Pass. So something I didn't know going into London was that you can actually buy this pass, and a lot of European cities actually have this, where you can go to a bunch of different attractions and pay like a fixed price. You end up getting your money's worth a lot of the time if you know that you're going to be going to a lot of different attractions. This is something we actually didn't do because we weren't sure exactly where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do, things like that, but I think in the long run it probably would have saved us a lot of money. The London Pass that I found in particular when researching this was with the hop on and hop off bus, which is also really convenient. Again, with transportation you don't have to pay for the tube, then you can just take the bus wherever, hop off, hop on, and then you don't have to worry about those transportation costs. It is pretty expensive up front. It starts at $83.46, so it definitely is an upfront cost, but you have access to 80 plus attractions. It also ranges from 1 day to 10 days, so obviously the more days that you sign up for, the more expensive it is. So I'm assuming 1 day is the one that starts at $83, but again, some of the attractions honestly range from 25 to like 70 bucks. So if you are thinking you're gonna hit a lot of places, you can honestly do a lot, especially with this bus taking you everywhere in 1 day, and you could definitely get your money's worth. Although I would recommend maybe doing like a 2 or 3 day so that you have time to like see everything that you want to see. They offer a few different packages in terms of like what you can see, what attractions you can't see. So even if you don't do this pass, or if you do this pass, I will just give a few recommendations about attractions I felt like were absolutely necessary and ones I was really happy that we went to. The first of these is the Tower of London. I absolutely love the Tower of London. I had no idea what it was beforehand, but honestly it was such a cool way to see a lot of the history of London. We paid probably around $30 to get in, and then there was an audio guide that was around $5. and that I highly recommend. It literally gave detailed information about every single thing in the Tower of London, and the Tower of London is huge. You could spend so many hours there. I think it was one of the places we got our money's worth for sure, because we were there for probably 4 to 5 hours. If you were really into the history and wanted to see everything, you could probably spend a whole day there. There's so much going on, and it's just really fascinating to learn about the history of like the monarch. They also have an exhibit on the crown jewels, a lot about their military as well, things like that. It was really interesting. I will say we went at a time right before the Queen's Jubilee, so it wasn't that crowded there the week that we went, but I do know that the crown jewels exhibit in particular gets really crowded, so I definitely would plan accordingly about when you are going. If that exhibit is something you're interested in doing, which it was really cool, you don't have to pay extra for it, everything's included, I would recommend going earlier in the day if possible, just because it gets really crowded. I also thought the views there were really amazing, and again, it was just really cool. The information was really cool, something I was really interested in when I was there. The next attraction I definitely recommend is the Tower Bridge. It was really cool. You got great views of the city, and I honestly don't necessarily feel like you need to go up it. It was probably $20 to go up to the top, but you don't even go all the way up the towers, which is what I thought. You just walk across this little bridge thing, which I'll insert a picture here. And that was really cool, but it wasn't something I felt like I needed to pay $20 for. You do get some history, but honestly, all in all, we were probably not up there for more than 20-30 minutes, and I just don't really feel like it was worth the cost. But if that's something you want to experience, that could be really cool too. Overall, the views from the bridge were really insane. You get such a nice view of the city, a great view of Tower of London. It was just really cool. Even being able to just walk across it, you don't even have to go up it. A huge recommendation I have is the Harry Potter tour in London. It is a little outside of the city, so we ended up taking the tube to like the main station in London. I think it's called King's Cross Station, and then we took a train from there to where the tour was, and then you take a bus. The Harry Potter tour like picks you up from that station, which is really convenient. So although it is a lot of moving around, they do help you and pick you up at the station, which is really nice. Honestly, it probably was like an hour ride total, but it wasn't bad at all and totally worth it in my opinion. I am a Harry Potter fan, but I wouldn't say a die-hard Harry Potter fan, and honestly I was just mesmerized by everything going on there. They show you some of the special effects that they do. They show you a lot of the costumes and sets that they filmed upon, and everything is like huge. You really feel like you're in the movie, and they even have like some interactive exhibits. We didn't do any of that. We honestly just like walked through it because it was already so long without waiting on the lines for that, and the lines were kind of long because a lot of like school trips go there. But even without those, and just like looking at them, it was honestly so cool. I'm so glad that we did it because it was just a really cool experience to see how movies are made. Halfway through the Harry Potter tour, they have a place to get lunch. You can get butterbeer if you want. And then you go into like some of the outside places where you can see the house that Harry lived in. It's very cool, and we were there for probably 5 or so hours. It definitely was one of the more expensive attractions we did, if not the most expensive. I believe it was around $70 for us to go, but it was really cool. We also got an audio guide there, which I think we paid an additional $5 or $10 for, but it was worth it because it explained literally every single thing that you could see within the exhibit. Overall, I was a huge fan. Honestly, I was just mesmerized the whole time by everything that you could see there. At the end, they have this really great model of Hogwarts lighting up with lights, fireworks. So if you are a Harry Potter fan at all, I think you would really enjoy it. And even those who maybe aren't as big of a fan, it's just a really cool way to go see a movie set and get out of the city a little bit. Something else I really recommend that is not an attraction is Covent Gardens. This is an area with a lot of shops, some vendors, artists, restaurants. It has a lot going on, and it was a really beautiful area. It was somewhere we didn't spend a lot of time, but somewhere I definitely wish we spent more time. I think we literally just grabbed dinner and then we're in a rush because we went to see a play, but it was somewhere I probably could have spent a lot of time, especially if you want to get some shopping in. They have a lot of great shops. They have a lot of souvenirs and restaurants, and everyone was just out there like having a drink. It was really great and somewhere that won't necessarily cost you money. You could even just walk around and enjoy it, and it was really cool. My final recommendation is to see a play while you're in London. Something I didn't know going into London was that theatre is really big there, so we made a point to go see a play. We actually saw Jersey Boys, which maybe wasn't the best suggestion because it's obviously a very Americanized play, but it was still really, really good. The production was great, and I think any opportunity you have to go see a show in London would be awesome because theatre is really huge there. You see advertisements for it everywhere, so I'm sure there's a lot of more London themed or British themed shows that would have been really cool to see, and it's also a nice way to just relax, watch a show after a day of doing attractions. Some attractions that maybe I wouldn't have gone to if I could do it again. The first of these is the Churchill War Rooms. Unless you're really into the history, I honestly would recommend these as a skip, only because I felt like they were a little boring. I think everyone there has to do the audio guide. I didn't see any guided tours through this exhibit, but I thought that it was a little boring. We also went there on our first day, so I might have just been tired, but I think unless you're really into the history, you maybe don't get enough out of it to make it worth that cost. Again, I think around $30 to pay for those. Another attraction I would skip, which might be the hottest take, is the London Eye. I just felt like it was really crowded. It got really hot in there, and we were there at the end of May, so I can only imagine what it's like in the summer. It was really crowded. Everyone was just trying to take pictures, and I feel like you can get comparable views in other parts of the city, like the Tower Bridge. Tower of London had really great views, and I just felt like it honestly wasn't really worth it for me personally. It was also expensive, like $30, and you just go up and around once, and although it does take a while, I think maybe all in all we were there for 30 minutes, it was just really hot, and I feel like I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have because of that, and because I felt like the views were comparable elsewhere. One area I maybe would have skipped is Leadenhall Market. We went with the expectation that it was going to be similar to Covent Gardens with shops and restaurants and things like that. But it was honestly just a lot of restaurants, and it was pretty. Maybe a great place to hang out if you're local to the area or you want to get a drink or something, because there were a lot of people like after work who were getting drinks there. But for me personally, I just didn't feel like there was a lot going on there, and we had gone very out of our way to get there. So it was not an area I would necessarily recommend. Some things I wish I would have done differently. I wish that we would have seen more of like the local area. We were so on the tourist attractions that I felt like we didn't get to see enough of London. I often felt like we were just around where all like the other Americans or visitors were, and I would have loved to see some parts of it that maybe were unique to London and made you get more of that feel of being in the local environment. I also wish that we would have taken a day to go visit the countryside or the beaches. It's really easy to get places from London. There's trains that are going to Paris, but there's also trains that are going just to other parts of England, and I would have loved to go maybe to Brighton or some other places to get out of the city and see some other things going on in England, because again, it was my first and only time going there, so I would have liked to see some more outside of the city. Although there is a lot to do in the city and we definitely filled all our time, I think if I could go back, I definitely would maybe see some things outside of the city, even if I just went for half the day. Another thing I would have done is plan more accordingly with our time. Obviously, a huge attraction when you're going to London is Buckingham Palace, but unfortunately because the Queen's Jubilee was only a week away, it was really closed off. The best view we got was this, which is really far away, and it just honestly was sad. I wish that we had been able to get closer, but they had everything closed off getting ready for it, which totally understand, but I wish that maybe we had put London earlier or later in our trip because we weren't really able to see it. I also would have done more research on museums. The British Museum, for example, you can definitely spend a lot of time there. The Rosetta Stone is there, which is really cool. They have a lot of really cool British artifacts that tell you a lot about the history, and it is free. And like I said, London can get really expensive, so if you're looking for something free to do, I definitely recommend that. I know by the end of our trip we were like, let's do something that doesn't cost us anything. I have heard that some other museums are free, so definitely do research on that. I don't know any personally, but if there's things that you can do that don't cost any money and you're still getting history, I definitely recommend doing that. All in all, I honestly had an amazing time in London. I'm so glad and feel so fortunate that we were able to go. Obviously, these are all just my opinions. I can totally be wrong, and if you have any recommendations, feel free to comment them below, and I would love to hear them for the time that I inevitably return, because I would like to. I will be happy to link the London Pass below, because I do think that you would save some money doing that if you're planning on doing a lot of attractions. I hope that this was helpful and that you maybe learned some of it. I know as a first-time traveler to London, I didn't really know what to do other than the tourist attractions, and I felt like we had to do them all, so hopefully this helps maybe clear some things up, or at least manage your expectations when traveling there. The next vlogs I'm posting are of our trip to Dublin, which I'm really excited about, so I hope you stay tuned to watch those. I will see you in the next one. Bye!